You know, whenever we see global conflict or street-level crime on the news, it's so easy to just accept the weapons as a given, right? Like, as if assault rifles just spontaneously generate out of thin air. Well, newsflash, they absolutely don't. Every single illicit weapon out there has a very real, surprisingly corporate origin story. I mean, it was manufactured, packaged, sold, and shipped. And today, we're tracing that exact journey.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're rolling up our sleeves and unpacking the massive, incredibly complex shadow economy behind global arms trafficking. We're talking about an industry that generates more revenue than the entire GDP of some small nations. Literally. We've dug deep into the source material to really understand the nuts and bolts of how these weapons move across the globe, completely undetected.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap. First up, the shadow arms economy itself. Then, we'll look at the actual manufacturing of so-called ghost guns. From there, we'll map out the trafficking corridors, identify the end users, and finally, we'll weigh the true cost of this massive global system.
So, starting off with Section 1, the shadow arms economy, a truly global underworld.
It is such a common misconception that arms trafficking is just some chaotic hustle happening in, dark alleyways. But actually scratch that. The reality is much more corporate than that. The term Dirty Dollars Inc. really captures it perfectly. Just think about the seamless global supply chains that bring those Amazon packages right to your front door. The illegal arms trade uses that exact same kind of infrastructure. You've got manufacturers, middlemen, highly specialized shipping experts. It's just entirely operating in the dark. It's driven by cold, hard supply and demand, running right in parallel to our legitimate global economy.
Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds. Manufacturing, specifically the ghost guns, and creating untraceable weapons.
Okay, before a weapon can even be sold, it obviously has to be sourced. And for a high-level arms dealer, the absolute best product on the market is one that officially doesn't even exist. Think about the contrast here. You have traceable, state-manufactured weapons. These have serial numbers, official stamps, a super clear paper trail all the way from the factory straight to the armory. But then, on the flip side, you have untraceable ghost guns. These are created completely off the grid with absolutely zero serial numbers. Once one of these is fired, it is a literal dead end for international law enforcement.
What's really fascinating here is looking at the ghost gun trade in the Philippines to see this working in practice. Out in remote, totally off-grid jungle workshops, you have these highly skilled machinists building untraceable firearms entirely from scratch. Zero serial numbers from the moment of inception. And these aren't just getting churned out for local street crime either. These hidden workshops are pumping totally clean, untraceable hardware directly into the international shadow market. It completely solves the dealer's very first problem, finding inventory with no history.
Which begs the question, how exactly do these untraceable weapons cross borders without getting seized? That brings us to Section 3, the trafficking corridors, moving the deadly cargo.
So how do you get a massive creative jungle-made ghost guns across the ocean? Well, enter the war dogs. These are basically the logistics experts of the shadow economy. Their playbook has three main steps. First, source the untraceable weapons. Second, smuggle them through international dark zones. They do this by utilizing forged end-user certificates and completely fake shell companies. I mean, these guys can make a massive shipment of assault rifles look like a boring delivery of farm tractors on paper. It's wild. And finally, step 3, they deliver straight to the illicit buyers. It is basically a very high-stakes, extremely lucrative game of global chess.
And this brilliantly illustrates the geographic reality of how this plays out, the Balkan pipeline. After historical conflicts in that region, there were just massive stockpiles of military-grade weapons left behind. Traffickers swooped in, tapped into those armories, and basically carved out this incredibly deep, entrenched smuggling corridor. Today, the weapons flowing through this specific pipeline are directly fueling street-level gang violence all across Europe. The weapons just flow effortlessly right to where criminal demand is the absolute highest.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, cartels, gangs, and insurgents, the end users.
So who is actually on the receiving end, buying all this deadly cargo? Well, this underground network services an incredibly diverse clientele. You've got Mexican cartels buying in absolute bulk just to secure the military-grade hardware they need to protect their territories. You've got European street gangs relying on those Balkan pipelines we just talked about. And you have global insurgency networks buying them up to challenge actual standing armies. The crucial point here is that regardless of their politics, their ideology, or their geography, they all rely on the exact same Dirty Dollars Inc. infrastructure. To the arms dealer, they're all just paying customers.
Let's zoom out a bit for Section 5, the true cost, the impact of the shadow economy.
We've seen how these weapons are made,
how they're moved, and who's buying them. But when you really step back, the true scale of this whole operation is just staggering. We are talking about a multi-billion-dollar illicit supply chain operating in strict, almost perfect parallel to the legitimate global economy. I mean, think about it. The shipping containers hiding these weapons are literally sitting on the exact same cargo ships that bring us our laptops and our sneakers. It is a meticulously structured life cycle that's turning raw metal into untraceable profit and ultimately driving global instability.
We've seen just how deeply entrenched Dirty Dollars Inc. really is, all the way from those jungle ghost guns to massive corporate smuggling corridors. So it leaves us with a pretty heavy thought. With a shadow supply chain this heavily funded and this highly organized, can the illegal arms trade ever truly be stopped? Or is this just a permanent, hidden fixture of our modern world? It's a darker reality, for sure, but hopefully this explainer gives you a much clearer picture of how the world actually operates right under our noses.